coffee, cotton, all those global commodities being cheaper, retailers are able to pass that on to consumers in terms of lower prices, and that's great news for consumers.
But there is, of course, also an argument that falling prices are not good news for the economy, because although you have to buy things like food and fuel when you actually need them, it might mean that you put off making a bigger purchase, say a new car, for example. That's because you know that during a period of deflation, if you wait just a couple more months, well, that car might start to get a bit cheaper. So it means you'll put off buying it and you'll wait to save a bit more cash. Now, think about that on an even bigger scale. If you're a business looking to buy a whole fleet of vehicles, you could put off making that decision too. And it means that shops are finding it harder to sell products. It all means you'll get caught in a cycle, one that's called a deflationary cycle.
It is a dangerous situation, because if firms get less for their goods, they freeze pay increases, they can cut salaries, and also consumers begin to think that they do better by waiting to purchase goods, and they defer their purchases. Now, if you slow down spending like that, it slows the economy down. The economy can get into recession or even a depression, and if you have interest rates almost as low as they can go, it's very difficult for a central bank such as the Bank of England to drag the economy out of it.
And so what the Bank of England report should highlight are the steps that they can take to stop prices falling too much. But this is where the Governor, Mark Carney, has a big problem. Normally, central bankers tackle deflation by lowering interest rates, and it means that if it's cheaper to borrow money, it should give the economy a little boost. But you'll know that interest rates here are already at their record lows. And so therefore, it will be very interesting to hear what the Bank of England can say to stop prices falling too fast. We'll have details on that for you a little later.
Thank you for explaining all through that.
Pleasure.
See you later, Ben.
6:52 the time now. Take a Nobel Prize-winning physicist and pair him with a world-renowned artist, and what do you get? Apparently fireworks.
The scientist behind the super-strong material graphene and an artist famous for putting Tilda Swinton in a box, well, they've combined their expertise to create a unique work of art. Our entertainment correspondent, Colin Patterson, has more.
The Nobel Prize meets the Turner Prize. Graphene, the world's strongest and thinnest material, and an exploded garden shed. The physicist and the artist behind them have teamed up to create a work celebrating the £15 million redevelopment of the Whitworth Art Gallery in Manchester.
So that came off the signature?
Yes.
Yeah.
Their project? A firework display triggered by a sensor made from graphene, extracted from the pencil marks in a 1789 William Blake drawing. And it's got them excited.
She has this vision that we can bring back in life the old drawings of the old masters and try to utilize graphite. That's exactly what I did. Picked a few specks of graphite from there and turned it into graphene.
And a simple change of humidity will set it all off.
Kostya's made a sensor out of this little piece of graphene. So I said to Kostya, what would trigger, how could you release its energy? And he said, well, even a breath would do it. And so I thought, a breath of a physicist.
This may not look like your average artist's studio, but it's where the graphene was made, and it's where the graphene is being stored until the big day. That's to avoid contamination. The air in here is 100,000 times cleaner than the air we breathe. And the belief is that this type of collaboration between art and science will become even more common in the future.
Imagine an artist in a laboratory and they get the chance to talk to a scientist about their work, and then they can look down a microscope and zoom in on a bundle of cells, and then one cell, and then what's inside a cell. And that's an invisible world to us. It's just fantastically rich material to get excited by and to inspire artists.
And the man who won the Nobel Prize for Physics is enjoying the new challenge. How are you finding the art world?
No, it's crazy, but it's exciting. There are differences between art and science, but we both rely on our curiosity, on our willingness to learn more, and on our imagination.
We can step out of our boxes. We don't like being in boxes.
A firework display containing pieces of meteorites from outer space should help. Colin Patterson, BBC News.
You're watching Breakfast with BBC News. Still to come this morning, we'll be live in Portsmouth with the most